No problem. So, actually, I was talking more about branches in the last class, right? So, we were saying what is branches, how do you generally work and create on them, correct? So, let's try to work on that more. So, okay, let me quickly go to the directory. Okay, so how do you see the branches which is available? So we just say git branch. So right now if you see there is only one branch in this repository, and in this repository there are pretty much two branches. And how do you switch your branch, or how do you point to other branch? You just simply have to say git checkout and the branch name. Okay, so wherein what is that I was telling? Anything that you try to store in a particular branch is available only in that branch, right? So let me go to the diagram once again if it's confusing. So what is this box? What is this box? So this is your working directory, and this is your staging area, and then this is your actual repository. Okay, so we'll take the same. So I'm just trying to put the same thing what we discussed yesterday. So this is the default branch, and this is the branch which we created called new branch. Okay, so anything that you type into it, or anything that you store into it, will be stored only in this branch, and anything that you store in this branch is available only in this branch, which means, as I said, to be in a simpler form, anything that you put into this container is available only in this container. So in that way, what is this? This is a branch. So any changes that you modify will be present only in this branch. Similarly, any changes that you do in this branch will be stored in this branch only. Okay, and you go little higher level. Anything that you do modifications within a repository is available only in the repository. That means each repository has its own branch. Okay, so that doesn't mean that another repository can have a similar name of branch. Yeah, you can have, but the difference is the contents whatever you have in a repository is known only to that repository, and anything that you modify in a branch is known only to that branch. Okay, so in the same concept, so if you see here in the new branch, we had created a file called 3.java, and if I now go back to the default branch called master, or the main branch, and now if you say that 3.java is not available, why is that? Because every time you switch the branch, by default what Git does is it puts the content of that particular branch into the working directory. So that is how you will be actually working on a branch. So when you say git checkout of master branch, then whatever is the content in the whatever the content is this in the specific branch, it will put it in the working directory. That is why you will be able to see the files physically. The same thing if you say git checkout master, then it will try to replace this with exactly what you have in the content of master. So like this, whichever branch you have, if you check out, Git will replace the content in the working directory with that the content of the branch which you are interested to work. If you don't have any branch, then by default it is the master branch which the working directory will always be pointing to, because master branch is the default branch which comes up whenever you create a repository. Okay, fine. So with that understanding, we saw how do you create a check-in, and when you create a check-in, it is individual, which means if you see, whatever you do modifications is only known to this. Respectively, any changes that you do in this is known only to this branch. You see, this commit ID is not available in the master because whatever changes that you did with specific to 3.java is available only in this branch. Okay, clear with that? All right, now let's proceed further. So now let me redo the same example. So I created 3.java, correct? So now let me create a file. Okay, I'm just creating a dummy file. I'll say uh, visible only from. Okay, so now if I'm creating this file, where am I creating? I'm creating it in the new branch. Okay, so what will happen if I say git checkout and master? So should the file be present here? No? Okay, what about others? Nagesh, Prithvi, should it be available there?
No.
Nagesh?
Yeah, no. It's not available here.
It should not be available, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's happening here? It's available. Why is it available?
While
Yeah, I created this file from new branch, correct? But when I checked out into master, this file is still available. Why? Why is 3.java not visible, whereas this file, whatever I created, is visible in this branch also?
Uh, Particularly, when we do in a particular branch, it will observe only in that branch. It does not shows in like it's in the other branch, right? So I think so. It's a new one. It's a different one. So that's why it's not up there.
No, then even 3.java was the same, correct?
Okay.
Now what is the point?
Yeah.
Whatever we did with
Oh.
3.java, I just created a dummy file. There's no content in 3.java.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's confusing, where exactly is this file? My question is that. So now, where is this file? Is it in the branch still? When do you say that the file is present in the branch? How does the Git know whether the file is present in the branch? What is this you did? You added 3.java to the branch. Exactly. So how does, when you say what's happening here is you were working on the new branch. Okay. So say that you had this file 1.java, then you had 2.java, and then you had 3.java. So along with it, what you did was you added one more file. Okay. So you added something like this. Okay. So you added something like this. Fine. Now, what you did, you just created a file, and where is that file created? It is still present in your working directory, correct? And did you add this to the new branch, or did you add it to the repository? We didn't do anything. We just blindly created, and it is still present in your working directory. After that, what we did, we just shifted the branch. So when you shift the branch, what does Git do? Git will try to take the content of master branch and put it here, right? So what it did, it replaced the content of new branch. What is the content of new branch? This is the content of new branch. It just replaced it with whatever you did. So that is the reason this file is still available. So to be clear, working directory is nothing but just a directory, and it will be replacing the content of what you have exactly in the branch. So since you have not added this branch, this file to any specific branch, it is just lying as if it was just a normal file in this directory. And on top of that, it is just switching between the content of the branches. So pretty much, in order to shift it, what you have to do is you have to add it to a branch. Okay, so now we will add it. Okay, so now once you add, you have this. So if you quickly look into the git log, you see we have created one more commit ID. Okay, so now what happens is, now this is the content what you have. So this is how similarly you're working. Now what you have done is you have added this file also to the repository. Okay, so I'm just putting it in a shorter way. So I have put this also. Now what you do is, now if you do a git checkout of master, what it will do, first it will remove the content of the current branch, and then it will go to the new branch whatever you are interested to work. So now if you go in the same format, I have this. If I say git checkout master, and now if I say ls, it will not be there. Okay, so you need to be clear here that whenever you are working on branches, the working directory is a common place to share. So if you don't commit anything and if you put some runtime files, it will be visible in all the places. So especially when you're trying to do development, and if you try to compile with this set of files, then only Git will be replacing what it has stored, and anything that you have just put it on the runtime, that means in terms of Git, what should we call? Untracked files, right? So all those untracked files which are not committed or which is not stored in the repository will be shareable across different branches because it will be just present in the working directory. Is that clear? Nagesh,
Yes,
Prithvi, Rajesh?
clear.
Okay, so Prithvi, is that clear? Okay, stop me in case if you don't understand.
Yeah,
All right, so
sure.
now what is that we did? So like this, you will be doing parallel development in each of the branches that we create. Okay, so you can have n number of branches like what you have, but the difference here is everything will be present here. Now, the question comes that we being a developer, I am just creating some new feature and I'm working on this branch called new branch. But ideally what it has to be done in order to release it, what is that we have to do? We have to give it to QA, right? When you have to give it to QA, we will not directly be giving it from our workspace because just like us, there might be other people in the team who will be modifying the code. So we have to integrate the code. So how do you share the code now? Basically, you have to put back to the central repository. Okay, so that is where everyone will be sharing their code, and when you have to give it to the QA or you have to do the complete testing as a product, you have to take from the central repository. Okay, now as a procedure, there are two ways that you can do. So either if you want, you can directly push from your current branch to the central repository. If not, the standard procedure is, now if you see, where is this new branch? It is only in my repository. Does the central repository know anything about this? No. So in order to maintain a symmetry, what we do is we will always merge from our whatever branches we have created to the default branch, and then push from the default master branch to the default master branch in the central repository. Because when you do a push internally, what happens is it is not directly from one repository to the other repository. Internally, where are you storing the files in the repository? You are storing in the branch. right? Because whatever we did, if you remember, you're not storing directly on the repository, you will be storing it on the branch. So in the same ways, when you say to push some data, you need to say to which branch exactly. So if you don't say anything, by default, it will take from master to master. That means master branch of your local repository to the master branch of the central repository. All right. So in the same concept, now in order to maintain that same naming convention, and instead of creating a new branch in the central repository, we will merge our contents from the whatever development branch to the default master branch, and from this master branch we will be pushing it to the central repository. Okay, so now let's try to do a merge. So when you are trying to merge branches, where is this branch? It is present in this repository. And to which branch you want to merge? This. Where is this present? It is in the same repository. So you cannot merge between branches of a different repository, because this branch is known only to this, right? So until now, whatever we are creating, only this branch, only this workspace knows about this branches, isn't it? Does new 00 knows about this? No. So you cannot merge anything between new 01 and new 00. Okay. So you have to be clear. That is, you can merge between branches only within a workspace or within a repository. Okay. So now, how do I merge between these two branches? So there are two ways to do it. Okay. So now, how do you do it? Is so the first thing is, if you have to merge, the syntax for that is git merge. So you have to say git merge, okay, and then you have to say what is your source and then what is the destination. Okay, so in our case, what is the source? The source is new branch. Okay, and what is the destination? The destination is master branch. Okay, so either you can do this way, or if not, if you see currently, where am I pointing to, or where are we working currently? In the master branch, right? So instead of giving the destination, if you leave the destination empty, then it will take the current branch wherever you're working. Okay, it's just a simple way of representing. So either you can give the name as master, or if you are already present in the destination, then you just simply remove and just say only this. Okay, so now if I press, okay, it's a typo. Okay, so what is that you have done? You have actually merged the contents which was not available in the master from the new branch. Okay, so clearly it is saying that it is trying to take two changes. That is, one change is this new file called 3.java, and the next thing is visible. Okay, so now if you say git status here, there is nothing, but here, see here, you got back both the files. And now if you say git log, you would have got both the commit IDs, which is corresponding to each change or each file that we created. Okay, so now both these branches are in the same state. So whatever you have in the new branch, you have merged it into the master. So now once this is done, what we'll do is we will have to push it to the central repository. Okay, so now if you see here, I don't have any of these changes. Okay, so the last one is 887A, correct? So now, okay, let me just clear the screen. So now what we do is we do a git push. So when I do a git push, what it internally does is, logically, it will be pushing the data from this repository, that is local repository, to this central repository. But internally, you need to say where exactly you are storing in the repository, that is the branch name. So when you see push, you have options of again saying two values, that is what is your source branch and what is your destination branch, wherein source branch is that of the local repository and destination branch is that in the central repository. Okay, so now here, if you want, I can say it like this. So I can say master and master. That means it is equivalent to local repositories master, and it means here central repositories master. Okay, so instead of doing this, if you remember the first class, we had set a configuration called push.default is simple. So what it will do is, by default, when you say git push, it will take default branch as master for the local or the source, and for the destination also it will take master. Okay, so now see what it does. So until now we were seeing only from here, say that it is automatically putting it, but look at the last line. What is it saying? From master to master. Okay, so that is how internally you should understand. It is not repository to the repository, but what exact branch you're using in the repository. So now if you run the same command and see, now it is 8878 is the latest, but now if you have seen, you have pushed two new changes from here to here, so correspondingly two new commit IDs has been come. Okay, so now what you can do is, any new user who can create the workspace from central repository, he will be getting all this code. Is that clear?
Yes, yes, sir.
Prithvi, Rajesh?
Yes.
Rajesh, are you getting it? Okay, so typically you understood, right? So just like this, you can create your own branch and it will be present only in your repository. You don't have to worry whether others is present. So since you have created a new branch only in your repository, you always try to merge into the default branch called master. And when you try to push, it will automatically take from the default master branch to default master branch in central repository. So now the advantage here is, only you can create as many branch you want. You don't want to create all these branches in the central repository. So wherein if you go with other SCM tools, for each branch that you have created, right, the same has to be present in the central repository, or it's vice versa. Only first you have to create in the central repository, then you will be using. But here in Git, the developers has the advantage where you can create as many branches as you want in your local repository, and to follow the standard procedure, we merge it to the master, and from the merge you push the data or pull the data. Yes. Mhm. Conflict. Okay, anyway, I'll show you some conflict here. Fine. Now, okay, since we have a question in conflict, I'll put it in a simpler way. Okay. Um, okay. So now you have 3.java here. Okay. So let me quickly put some content. I'll say line 1. Okay. I'm putting it into this. So we will quickly add this. Okay. So now you have added. So you have a new commit ID. Okay. Now what I'll do is, I'll take a new branch. Okay, now let me go to that new branch, that itself. All right. Now in this you have 3.java, right? So here it doesn't have any content. So first here what I'll do is, I'll put a, say, new line 2. Okay, and okay, this corresponds to new 01. Okay. Now, so now if you see, this is a different line. So quickly let's add this. Okay, so now you have totally different check-ins for the same file, correct? Now this is a different commit ID, and if I go to master branch, okay, now you have a different commit ID here, right? Both are different. Why? Because here we added one line called line 1, whereas this is different. Now let's try to merge content from new branch to master, okay, as a standard. So now what we'll do is we will say, okay, let me clear this. So what I'm trying to do is I am trying to merge from the new branch to the master branch. Okay, so now if I enter, what is it saying? It is saying that there are some merge. Why? Because the content what 3.java had is different, because that is different and this is different, so we have to resolve it manually. Now let us see what and all it has done. First, has it done automatic commit? No, it has still keeping the file in the modified state. If not, when you do a merge, by default it will take the change, modify it in the current branch and add it to the repository. But now if you see, since there is a conflict, it is not done anything, it is kept in the modified state. So now let's open 3.java and see how it looks. So what is it saying now? Okay, you forget about this part head. I will let you know in some time later with the different concepts. So now if you see, it is differentiating with this is the content of your master branch and this is the content of your new branch, or it is saying that in the current branch or in the destination branch, this is the content you have, whereas this is the source from which you are trying to take. Okay, so the arrow mark clearly indicates that this is the source, and the left side arrow mark indicates this is your current content. So now it is asking you which one you want to store. Okay, just to be clear for differentiation, it is putting up lines like this. So now you choose which one you want to keep or how you want to keep. So logically, I want both of them to keep it. So it is the work of the developer to edit the content of the file. So now what is that I am interested to keep? Only these two lines. So simply delete all the unnecessary lines or however you want, and then go ahead with the normal check-in. So now we have done. What I'll do is I'll add it now. It's simple, wherein it will not do, wherein the developers or whoever user who is trying to merge has to understand the exact line of code and try to merge now. Okay, and now if you say git log, you see it would have created a new commit ID with respect to what changes you have. And what is the change you have? You have merged. It has not merged because since it couldn't merge, it asked you to resolve the conflict, and we manually have to resolve the conflict. Okay, is that clear?
Okay.
Okay, so that's pretty much from the branch. Now, before we go, is there any doubt in branching? It's all about how you work on that. So working on a branch is nothing different. The only thing is you have to remember there is always a branch called default branch or main branch or master branch. So if you create a new branch, you have to do a checkout, start working, and anything that you do in it has to be put into the repository. Only then it will be stored permanently. If not, it will be shared across other branches. And any changes that you do within a branch is local only to the branch. Okay, and as a standard procedure, once you complete it, your development activity, you merge the changes from whatever branch you are to the local or master branch as a best practice, and then you just simply do a push so that the code would be put in a simpler way and you are following a branching methodology of single branching methodology. You're not having too many branches in the central repository. Okay, fine. Now, moving on, if you see, there are some certain other advantages what we have in Git when compared to other tools. Okay, so one such a advantage what we have is called a stashing. So to explain what is stashing, Let's try to understand some normal use case. What is it? So what will happen is, say that you are a developer or you kind of user. Okay, so you have to modify something. So when you have to modify something, what is that you will do? You have to first know what and all files you are going to modify. Okay, so you get some idea on how to do it, and then you'll start writing the code. So as you're writing the code, you complete the code and you test, you see things are not working. Okay, then suddenly you think there's some other idea that you want to do, but still it's an R&D, so you are not confirmed that this will work or not, but you still have an idea. So what will you do generally? You will commit the change. What if the code is not correct? How will you commit? Yeah, you commit it only when things are fine. Why do you want to store a code which is buggy, which is not working? So what will you typically do? Forget about Git. Generally, what will you do? You're doing something. Yeah. Typically, what things? I'm just asking. Forget about Git. Generally, okay. You have some file. You are writing something in a file. Suddenly, you remember that this has to be written in a different way. Okay. So what are the possibilities you will do? Will you overwrite it? Will you delete it? Or typically, what is that you will do? Yeah, commenting is also fine. That is one of the idea. I mean, it depends. So, but what if the number of lines are huge? How will you comment? Typically, commenting is not possible. So, what will you do? What about others? This is a scenario what I'm asking you. Say that you are modifying some file and suddenly you realize that you need to do it in a different way and you have a different idea wherein the content is completely different or the content is partially different with what you have written. So what and all will you do? Don't think about Git, think about a general concept. Any idea what you will be doing? Yes, anyone. Okay, Anup said,
Uh,
yeah, Rajesh. Sorry. Prudvi, Nagesh, who was that?
yeah, actually, it's pretty. If depends on, I mean, you can override and things like, if we come to Java, we can override or we can get the options.
Uh, that's why I'm saying don't go too technical. I'm just saying a simple scenario. Okay, you will overwrite the existing content, but
Uh,
what if your new
yeah,
idea is not correct? Only after writing the new code or writing the new content, you realize that the first idea was better than the second idea. Then, how will you get back your first idea? Or how will you take back or go back to your previous code? It is still a testing. So you are trying to do a trial and error. So in that case, what will you do? Huh? Okay, exactly. You will take a backup. You take a copy of somewhere, right? Typically, that is the only possible way. If not, it is not so easy wherein keep commenting it, overwrite means you will not get it. Correct? Either you put comment and keep on adding new line or take a backup simply. Correct? Now, as I said backup, if there are too many files, then you have to remember about taking backup of all those things. And at the same thing, what if even the second idea doesn't work? You have to go with a new idea. So how many backups will you be taking? Typically, this is what you will be doing. It's not like no one will be doing. Everyone will be doing something like this. But the problem here is if you need to do too many changes, you have to take too many backup, you have to remember all those things, right? If not, all the changes will be gone. You have to rewrite it everything. If not, you can comment it, but if you try putting comment, the code will look so messy and you will not clearly understand later point of time because you will be in a hurry to type everything and you just leave something, it will not work. So for these kind of scenarios wherein when you want to take a backup and at the same time you want to go back to the previous content, then you can use something called stash in Git. Okay, so what Git will do is when you try to do some change, and after doing the change, if you say git stash, first thing it will do is it will take a backup of whatever you have done. Okay, fine. And the second requirement is I don't want to write on top of that, but I want to go back to my previous state of the file and start writing it from the new thing, so that whenever I want, we can apply what we have taken a backup and use it. Okay, so these two things can be achieved using stash. Are you clear? You can take a backup, and at the same time you will go back to the previous state or go back to the previous content of the file, so that, like I said, you can start writing with your new idea. So you have written idea 1, you do a stash, it will take a backup of all the contents what you have done, wherein it's not just one file, it can take completely all the files that you have done for your repository, and at the same time it will take the content of the file previously to what it was originally before you started typing idea 1. Okay, so it is like that. So now later whenever you want, you can take that change and apply. So if your idea 2 is not working out, you do the same thing, stash once again, wherein it will take all the content of idea 2, then you apply the idea 1. Okay, so let's see how to do that. So first what I'll do is, so now we are in this branch, so it doesn't matter. So now okay, fine, let me take this which file do you want to take? I'll take 2.java, or okay, let me take 2.java. So right now this is the content that I have. Okay, so now what I'm saying is I am getting a new idea. Okay, so I'll say idea 1.2 or something like this. This is my first idea, or let me be clear, idea 1. Okay, so I have put some content and I'm trying to put some content into 2.java, and now if you see, you have some new idea, right? Whatever content you have put, fine. Now once this is done, now what is that I have to do? Either I can do commit. Now I'm doing testing, then now I realize that, oh, something is not working. So what we'll do before that, if you do a git status, it clearly says that it is modified, correct? And still I have not put into my staging area, it is only present in my working directory. Okay, now when I did the test, okay, I feel this is not right. So now what we should do, I should take a backup. So now if I say git stash, sorry, I always do this. Okay, so now what is that it has done? Let's look one by one. So first let's say git status. You see there is no modification done. Okay, what happened? So now when you go to 2.java, see the content, it has reverted back to the original content which you had started with, right? Now, so you got back the scenario wherein the file is fresh and you can start working, and same time it has taken a backup. Okay, so now where has it taken the backup? Because when you say backup, where is it? It's not a physical backup, but so you use the command list and get the backup. So you see, it is giving you an entry where it is saying that it has taken a backup of your previous commit ID. That was what you have done, right? With respect to this, it has taken a backup. So like this, now you can do as many changes that you want and keep on adding it to the area. Now suppose, let us try to add a new idea. Okay, so I will say idea 2. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. So now if you see, I have idea 2. Okay, and if I say git status, you have this. All right, okay, now again, I did this, I'm doing testing, so if I'm not convinced with this, I can do a git stash once again. Okay, so when you do a git stash once again, if you see, there are no changes, everything is gone. Where is it exactly? So if you rerun the git list, so you would see now there are two entries, okay, wherein you did stash 2 times, so that it has taken the entries twice. Okay, now what you need to understand here is git stores the stash in the form of array. Array means as a group, one by one it will be adding. Okay, so there is an array called stash array in every repository by default. So every time you add a change, it is adding it here. Okay, so if you see this in the stash, sorry, in the array by default you will be using some index called as 0 1 2. Okay, so it is the same concept, even it will be applying. I believe everyone knows what is an array, or you want me to just give an intro of what is array? I'm just arrays in any normal array. What about others? Nagesh, Prithvi, Rajesh.
Yeah, I don't know.
You guys know what is an array, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Rajesh, buddy, Rajesh, are you aware of what is an array in general terms? Are you there, Rajesh? Okay, cool. So as we know, the index in the array always starts with 0, which means the 0th index points to the first element and first index points to the second element of the array. So like this, whatever changes that you do, it will be put into the, what is that, stash array. Okay, so now this is how you will be storing all the changes or taking a backup. Now comes the question, what if I want to get it back? So until now we did the first part, that is keep on stashing it or taking a backup. But if I have to apply some particular changes, how will you do? So for that, there are two ways to apply. Okay, so the first way is you have to say git stash apply, and which specific index in the stash that you want to do is by this. So if you say stash at the rate the number, so whatever corresponding content that you have put in that index of that stash array, it will apply it to the workspace. Okay, so if you want, I can do that. So you can say git stash. Okay, let me clear it. Okay, so now if I say git stash apply stash of at the rate and which one, so say that I want to take the first index. Okay, and if you do an apply, see what it has done. If I say git status, see it has got it back. And if you see the content of 2.java, it has got back your content. So that means every time you put an entry into the stash, it will be pushing up the first one to this data, and it will be adding the new data to this. Okay, so what it means, the first time when you put something, it will be here. The next time when you add it, it will push it to this, and the 0 will be the latest one what you have taken. Okay, wherein 1 means what was that first time I have put, so it puts the data in the reverse order. So now what we did is, what is this, whatever we have put in the first idea, it is giving us. Getting it? Okay, so now you have all the changes. Once you have tested, you can go ahead and do a commit. Okay, so now you have checked in everything, so things are fine. But now if you see, you would still have the git stash present, because you have just asked it to apply, you have not asked it to delete or anything. Okay, so the other way of applying the stash is called as pop. So pop represents a normal behavior of an array, where it will remove the last entry present in an array and it will apply it here. And not only that, pop will remove the entry from the stash directly. Okay, so I'll show it once again. So now if you say git stash pop, okay, now why is it saying conflict? Because you already had some content in the 2.java, right? But anyway, see what it has done. It has taken the entry, what was the latest? Pop means the latest that you have, that it has put. Anyway, that is one way fine. Now if you see git stash list, you have still have, because you don't have this conflict. So now if the conflict was not there, what pop will do is it will take this change and it will delete the entry from the merged content. Okay, that is two ways that if you're applying. Apply will just apply, and when you say pop, pop will remove this entry logically, but it has not done fully because it couldn't put the entry because there was a conflict. But if there was no conflict, when you say pop, it will do the same thing as apply, but additionally it will delete the entry whatever that you are seeking it. Again, it's the same way. You have to open manually and try to do it. Conflict, resolving the conflict has to be done manually because it doesn't know which content it has to put, right? So it will ask you to put. So what I mean to say is, if you say apply, apply will be just applying, but when you say pop, pop will exactly remove this entry and apply. It will do both. So it's based on your need. Any point of time, if you want to still keep the stash in the same way, you just use stash apply. And if you want to delete all the stashes, then you can just say git stash clear and it will be deleting it. Yes. Yeah, once you have implemented your idea, you still don't need it, right? Typically now, if you say git stash clear, what will happen? It will go back. And now if you say git stash list, there'll be nothing. Okay, now in your file, you still have this content, right? So either you can keep it here or you can just remove the content. So if you say 2.java, you have all this content, right? So if you want, you can keep it, or based on what is your need. So we will say, so I can keep the same thing. Okay, so I can just simply commit it. Okay, and you would have got a corresponding ID for that. Is that clear? What is stash? To be clear, stash is used for a backup and at also same time reverting back the changes to its original state. Okay, so like this you can work around, play around with how many changes you want and keep taking a backup. So remember, all this changes what you're doing, the stash is available only in your repository. Okay, any doubts in this? Yes, Prithvi.
No.
Okay. Nagesh, Pratibha, any doubts?
Yes, Adam.
Yeah, you have a doubt?
No, I don't have.
Okay. Is that clear? Yes, buddy.
When you say repository, is it like local repository or central repository? Just like local repository, right?
Yes. Where are we working currently?
Local repository.
So whatever I say repository means only one repository. That is your current repository.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Hey, you guys are good, man. Only Anup is bad. He keeps asking me question. Pretty much you guys are decent. You're not asking questions. Okay. Now let me make it little complicated. So let me go back to one more scenario. Okay. So now think freshly. So you are a user Okay, now until now you were trying to do some changes, everything is fine. So when was that you tried to test something and things were fine? Now you did your local testing, it was fine, but you are trying to do a commit. Okay, so when you're trying to do a commit, what you will do, you will add it to the staging area, and before you're going to commit, you find out there is some problem. Okay, now what and all is that you will do, wherein you know this idea is a crap, you don't want the idea, then what is that you have to do? Basically you have to revert the changes, right? Then what will you do in those cases? So I'm saying that you wrote some idea, okay, and you put into the staging area also. Just before you are going to do commit, maybe you do some testing or you hear that you have done some changes. Or let me put it in very simple way. You have to just revert your changes or discard your changes. That is what it's simply before you have committed. So what is that you can literally think of? What is that? So what is that you guys think of? What will you do? No, you're just writing a code. You just know that, oh, this line is not good for me. I don't want this change at all. You're just reverting whatever you wrote. Revert means undo, right? How do you undo here? What will you do undo? Okay, you're writing a text in your message or your mobile. How will you undo? You just clean it,
Just
right?
to backpack.
Yeah, delete whatever you have done. Yeah, logically, this is also the same thing here.
Yes.
But it is not so straightforward. Okay, because it's in text, it's just one box. But here, how many boxes do you see? Forget about this. How many big boxes do you see? How many? Yeah, you have almost three boxes, right? So it is not just like
Yeah.
if I open this working directory, I modify 2.java, I will go delete the line called new idea. Typically, that is what is enough. But internally, what happens is we need to know. So before going into the same, keep this concept in mind. Now, I'll introduce something called head. Okay, so question comes here. So what is in head? What is a head?
Main main part of the
What is your head?
main part of the particular thing. Main part of the particular thing. I mean, everything functions on it with that one.
Yeah, so what is your head? This is a simple question. Yeah, what is the answer? Tell me, what is head in your body?
It's the main part.
Yeah, okay, and then
Everything functions with the head. I mean, a head consists of brain, and it functions with the brain.
okay. So head is a part of your body. Okay, correct. It is just like one more part of the body. And then what else? It is on the top of your body. And that is what through which you whatever you said the answer is correct. Now,
Uh,
so to compare it the same thing with Git, as we know, how do you track everything? It is with respect to commit IDs, right? Typically, that is what you will be storing in the repository. So when you say head, then head represents the latest commit ID that you have in your branch. Okay, or simply it means where you are currently pointing to. Okay, so that doesn't mean always that is the latest, but where is that you are currently pointing to? So now where is that I am pointing to? How do I get my latest commit ID? This is my latest commit ID, right? So typically head of a branch represents the commit ID on which it is currently working. So which is the commit ID that is currently pointing or showing? This is the one, right? So this is the head of the branch. Okay, you have to be remembering. So it is not the latest commit ID, but the commit ID which you are currently viewing. Okay, because in this branch I am currently pointing to this, or currently we are working on this. So this is called as head. Okay, now let's take back the same thing. So now what is this? 63D, right? So now in this, whatever master branch that you're working, okay, now forget about all the other branches just to make it simple. Now you assume there is only one branch called master. So whatever you do is master. So now where is the head that is pointing to? It is pointing to 6D, 63D. Okay, now this is your head. Okay. Okay, now what happens is, let's try to do some modifications and see what and all happens. So first thing what we do is, uh, okay, let me say take this file. We will add one new line. Okay, so we will add a new, I'm sorry. Okay, forget it, no problem. So now I have modified the file called one.java with some content like this. So the first thing what you have done, so you have modified some content here, right? Or I can write the same content what I have done here. So this is what I have done for this file called, what is this file? It is one.java, right? So this is what we have done. All right. There you go. You modified it. Then once you do, what will you do? You will do a git add, right? So now if you see, okay, so now let us add it to the staging area. Okay, so now if you say git status, what is done? It has added to the staging area. So now let's show it represent the same thing. So now what is that you are going to do? You have done the same changes for this 1.java, and you're typically, okay, I'm just trying to put the same thing here. So now what we have done, we have taken the changes from the working directory and we have put into the staging area so that Git will take the snapshot. Okay, now after this what you will do, you have to do a commit, right? So that the changes will come from here and it will go to the repository permanently. So what will happen, as soon as you do a commit, it will be giving a new commit ID, and then automatically what will happen, head will move from here to here, right? So logically what happens inside Git is, whenever you put some changes into the staging area, it will create a temporary ID. Okay, you can think it like this. It will create a temporary ID and then it will move the head from this particular place to this particular place. Because where is that you are currently pointing? You are currently pointing to some changes which you have done on top of the existing one. So what is that change representing? This temp. So when you enter the command git commit, the changes will come permanently here, and then it will be replacing this content with the new commit ID whatever it generates. Okay, so typically now, like I said, what is head? Head is pointing to something latest. So right now, if your head was pointing, again, not your head, it is the head of the branch, it was pointing to this, then what does it mean? The content was something else, right? What was the content of your first file? Now, when the head of the branch was pointing to 6D, it should be pointing to this. But now, logically, you have modified something. So that means the head of the branch is moved to some temporary ID, which corresponds to the line 3 which you have modified. Okay, so once when you do a commit, this will be replaced with the new commit ID. But it is not visible to our eyes, but internally, this is what Git does. Okay, so now if you see how many places have you modified the file, there are critically 3 places. Okay, so now in Git, if you have to undo your change, it is not just from one place, but it is from three places. Okay, so now let us see how do you revert or undo the change from all these three places. Okay, so going back to the PPT. Okay, so the command that we use for resetting or undoing the change is called reset. Okay, now if you see, there are three options that is present, that is soft, mixed and hard, and each one of them has its own purpose. So suppose if you want to just move the head of the branch to the previous one what you had, then use git reset soft. Okay, pretty much it is not usable anyway, it's just a logical representation, because as I said, do you see anywhere where this has been moved? Do you get this temporary ID? There is no way that you can see. But whereas I can see this changes in the staging area, I can see the physical changes, right? The head reference is only for the Git's logic. So even if you run this, you will not be seeing any difference. Okay, it will be pretty much the same. So it's just for understanding, you don't worry, that I'll show you it a little later. Now, what if the other things, sorry, or what is that you have to do? So there is an option called mixed. So when you do a mixed, what it does is it resets the head pointer, and at the same time it also resets your staging area. Okay, so now when you say soft, it will take this content here and it would have put it here. Okay, it does only this. But when you say git reset hyphen mixed, then along with this it will also delete this content. Okay, so now let's try that and see. Okay, now, okay, let me show you quickly. You see it is still in the staging area. Now if I say git reset mixed, okay, so now see the git status, it has become to red, which means it has deleted the changes or reset the changes what you have done in staging area. And has it done anything to the working directory? No, it has kept the same thing, right? So mixed means it will remove from the head reference and also from the staging area. Suppose if you say the third option called hard, then it is going to remove from all the three places. Okay, that is, it will remove the reference from head, it will remove the content from the staging area, and also it will remove this content. So now we are going to say head, so typically it is going to delete this also, or it is going to reset the file to its original state completely. Okay, so now if you see closely what it has done, you see now what is it doing? It is saying that the head is put back to 6.3. So typically what it has done is it has removed this content and it has put the head reference to the 6.3D. So your repository content is back. Do you have anything in the staging area? That is also not there. And if you see the content of the file, that is also not there. That means it has reverted. So hard by default does all the three things together. So based on your need, you can modify it like this. So typically you will be using only this option called hard always. Okay, so when you say hard, it will remove from all the three places. So is that clear? How do you revert a change? So it might be from a interview or just in a general case. So you have three places in the Git directory or workspace, wherein when you say undo a change or revert a change, it is not just from one place where you're modifying, but it is from the staging area and from the repository, wherein it is depending on what options that you give. So if you say git reset soft, only from the repository's head content it will be taking, and when you say git reset mixed, it will be taking from the repository and the staging area, wherein if you say hyphen hard, then it is going to take a mix of all these three. So by default, you will be always doing git reset hard only. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Any questions? Prithvi, Nagesh, Rajesh, Pratibha? Nope. Sorry? Yeah, but at least
Yeah.
you know what.
Up to now it's good.
If you have any modifications and you have to undo, how do you do? You have to simply use this command called git reset hard. Is that clear?
It is.
Okay, I don't want to go further because I already see things are getting blank from your side. So I'll pretty much stop here. Okay, so